Welcome to Snipe Life. Today we're going to be talking with a cinematographer from The Chosen. His name's Arturo, and he's an amazing guy. He gave us some great insights into what The Chosen looks like and his general thoughts about the show. Real quick before we get started, make sure you guys like this video. It really helps us to get pushed out to the community. So, yeah, here we go. So I guess let's just start off with, who are you? and
Totally.
kind of how did you get started in cinematography and all of that?
Yeah, so my name's Arturo Ochoa. I live out in Venice Beach in LA. I have been doing movie things for probably about 8 years, and then hardcore sort of camera work in the past 6, I would say. And The Chosen kind of came out of nowhere, honestly. When we were making the first season, I don't think anyone really knew it was going to explode how it did, you know? I mean, Dallas was definitely on a mission. When we first started, we started with just 4 episodes, maybe 3 years ago now. Let's see, how long ago? Yeah, I think almost 3 years ago now. We started shooting that, and it was just at least from my perspective, it felt like a little bit of a Hail Mary. Like, didn't know if people were going to be into it. Like, we just kind of started with the 4 episodes. Didn't really realize what we were getting ourselves into, as far as just the huge explosion of the show, it seems like. We're already talking about season 3 actually today. Akis Konstantakopoulos, who you've seen as a cinematographer, he's a good friend of mine, and I work with him. We do a lot of different movies and TV. I've been working with him for probably the last 5 years, and he got the call to go do The Chosen, and he's like, "You want to go to Texas and shoot this thing?" And I'm like, "Sure, yeah, let's go see what that's like," you know. And it was such a cool opportunity to go back in time. I think that was the big draw for me was, at the time I'm watching things like Game of Thrones and Vikings, some of these other sort of historical dramas, and we got a chance to do one, and we were pumped. It was like, put the lights away and break out the candles, and let's see what kind of cool things we can pull off with the camera in particular. So that's kind of how it started. And then now, I mean, it's a whole different beast. It's almost unrecognizable, in my opinion. Season 1 from season 2. The locations alone, we're shooting in these amazing locations in Utah and Texas. And it just feels like you're in the Middle East and you're back in time. And really something. My jaw was on the floor multiple times just shooting it, you know what I mean? Let alone watching it. As I've been watching these episodes come out, it looks even better than it did when we were there, just because you got the music and you got the sound and all these things. When we're there, it's mostly us talking about camera settings, some guy with a megaphone, you know what I mean? It's not nearly as exciting as it is in the final product, but man, it's been cool to see how it's turned out, and shooting it was just awesome, and challenging, kind of like the one, that's what got my attention from your video, was like, someone notices that we didn't cut the camera there. Because I was telling my fiance about it, and I was like, we're doing this big oneer, I'm like on the phone with her, doing this big oneer, I can't sleep, I'm so nervous about tomorrow. And she's just like, what is that? I don't know what that is. And so explaining that is great. And now, she always brings up whenever we see a oneer or whatever, not in the film industry. So it's been fun to kind of talk about those things, but it's been great that people seem to be, at the very least, realizing that something feels different with that scene. Maybe they're not queuing into it, being a seamless take, but you feel it, and I think that's always been Akis's goal, and something we always talk about in the creative process, is just like, what's this going to feel like? And that was really important. So hopefully, people feel that, even though they might not know the technical. And then the people that do know the technical, there's a handshake that shows up, as people kind of can't believe that we did something like that.
Yeah, I remember sitting there, and I think it was probably like maybe 8 minutes in, like 6 or 8 minutes in, and I like turned to the group because we were watching it with a couple of friends at our house,
Oh, cool.
and I was like, has it not cut yet? I was like,
Yeah.
and then everybody like hyper focused on it, and they were like waiting for the cut, you know. And
Oh, definitely.
so that's super cool. I do want to dive into that scene, but real quick,
Yeah.
before we kind of get into that, I guess overall, what is it like working on The Chosen? Knowing that it's a different type of production than normal productions, right? Not only in the way that it's being put together, but also like the business side behind it.
Totally.
How do you feel knowing that like the crowdfunding could not work, and all
Totally.
of that? How is that from your perspective?
I mean, it's when we were shooting the original 4, the whole idea was, all right, if people like it, we'll make more. You know what I mean? And Dallas was always pretty confident that people were going to be into it. You know what I mean? It's tough when you're shooting it. You're not always sure it's all coming together. You know what I mean? Like, it's so separated and a little disjointed when we're shooting. We could shoot something from the end one day and then shoot something from the very beginning the next. And a lot of times it's very scrambled. And we're so hyper focused on like the day. So it's sort of by day, 30, you're kind of like, oh yeah, this is supposed to match the thing we did, 30 days ago. And like, what was it? Was it rain? Was it cloudy? Like, can we bring up some notes? Like, we got to fix it. And so like our brains are always working in those ways, at least for me in the camera department. That's how our brains are working. So as it draws to a close, you start sort of thinking like, man, I hope this like works. You know what I mean? And we've done everything right, so it should, but there's still that point of like, well, it's still got to go in through the edit, still got to go through the music. And that's where like someone like Dallas is so important, because he's such a good overseer and he is sort of massaging all of those things as we go, which is great because all I have to worry about is camera, and then he worries about, whether or not you're feeling something while you're watching it. And I think that's like just so important, and it's hard to describe because it's so multifaceted, but it really takes like a special person to be able to sort of careen through that gracefully. I work on a lot of sets all the time. This week alone, I've already done like 4 different projects, just like little commercials and stuff. And like people all have different styles, and most people aren't good at it. Like most people aren't very good, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of creativity and a very like determined sort of like perspective and view of the world that you need to translate. I remember someone once telling me that like good directing means that you sort of you create the whole story as if you're trying to tell it to one person, and just like decide who that person is and just craft the whole thing around it. And I think I mean, I haven't heard Dallas say that, but I think I can tell that that's maybe an approach that he's taking, and why so many people seem to gravitate toward it really well, because he makes it just very personal. It's very like small about something large. I don't know if that makes any sense. So anyway, as it relates to the crowdfunding, we're just I think he was just hoping it was going to stick. He was very confident, and when it came out, people were going nuts over it. And so we were kind of like, well, season 2, shall we? And the money came in, and people, were responding with it. And it feels good. It feels good to know that people want to see it. You know what I mean? It's so hard to do. It takes so long. I'm away from home for 4 months, and Dallas and all them even more. I can't imagine Dallas. I mean, he's always flying. Every time I text him, he's like, "Oh, I'm in, wherever, a million different places." And it's just great to see the crowdfunding coming in and allowing it to flourish. And also, they can do, because of the crowdfunding, Dallas is in charge. You know what I mean? A lot of projects that you're on that are funded by the studio or Netflix or Amazon. These places are great, don't get me wrong, but sometimes they have an idea of what they want, and they push that. And that's fine, but it's great to be untethered from that. And it just, I think it really frees Dallas up in particular. And then, you know, it trickles down to all of us and the different department heads. You know, I think we all feel really good to try things like a 16-minute oneer. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even tell you, I've never done that before, because no producer is going to let you do that. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to be like, everyone's going to be like, no way. Like, you know, we don't want to do that. It's either too risky, or people won't hang with it, or people won't get it. And we have the money, so no, you can't do it. Whereas like on The Chosen, they are kind of, I remember the first time Dallas mentioned it to me, we were eating tacos and he was like, I'm thinking about doing a oneer for this scene. And I'm like, that's like a 16-page scene. Usually one page script wise translates to 1 minute is usually how you gauge it. It's like, I think it's actually a 15-minute page. I'm like, that's a 15 pager. Like, that's crazy. And Akis was like, let's do it. And I'm like, hey, what do we need to do it? You know, we had to bring in all this special equipment. I mean, it's a whole nother story, but all that to say that the crowdfunding is instrumental, I think, into giving Chosen the feel that it has. And if it were backed by other things, it could be different. You know, I mean, it's hard to say, but it's awesome, man. And people coming in and supporting it. I mean, me and Akis just flew back from New Mexico the other day doing another movie, and someone at the airport came up to us because Akis had a Chosen face mask on. Was like, oh, did you guys work on The Chosen? We're like, yeah, we did. And like, oh my gosh, I love that show. You know, I mean, that happens all the time. It's crazy. You know, the whole time we were in Utah, we could hardly go get dinner without someone coming up to our table and being like, oh my gosh, you guys here shooting The Chosen? You know, everyone's just really excited, and that's contagious, you know, and you get pumped up, and it's cool, man. I think it's awesome. So
well, let's jump into that scene then, and talk about the oneer. I mean, I know that, like, I've watched it several times at this point, trying to, you know, work on our video and just looking back through it and trying to, like, you know, see everything that's going on, kind of take it in for myself. What are some of your favorite things that we do not see on camera, but you know that are kind of going on behind the scenes there?
Oh man, well, as my fiance likes to point out, because she came to visit the set a couple times, and her thing that she's always so striking about, it's like, man, it's so funny. You can watch like this intimate scene where you feel like it's just, you know, like for example, the very beginning of the season where it's sort of a flashback. And it feels like so intimate, and there's just like two people talking over candlelight. Like, what's actually happening in that room is there's two people, and then there's like 15 people directly behind them, all these things set up. It's so circusy, you know. We like to call ourselves carnies, because we come in and we set up a bunch of stuff, and then we tear it all down by the end of the day, and we do it again the next day. And so I think for me, like the oneer is cool because it looks like we're just spinning around, and these guys and this whole event is taking place, and it for sure is, you know. I mean, all those extras, and there's no CGI elements in that shot, to my knowledge. But what's cool about it is that as this camera's rotating, there's sort of this whole masquerade of people like shuffling around behind it, you know. And as I don't know if you saw the comment, I was talking to, I think, Denise or someone that was commenting on your video. But you know, me, Dallas, and Akis are like huddled up in that little tent. You know, our faces are nearly touching as we're watching this monitor, and we're hoping nothing goes wrong, because after you kind of get through 4 or 5 minutes, at that point you're just kind of praying that nothing goes wrong, you know, that the cameraman doesn't collapse. I mean, this poor guy, we had to hire this specialty guy. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen 1917. Have you seen this movie?
I've heard about the oneer in that, but cool. That's crazy.
So they're like a big oneer thing. So we were looking at that, and they use this tool. It's like this giant cage thing that allows you to kind of have this thing on a post. and spin around. Anyway, we got this guy who was great. He just finished Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
That's awesome.
And that's what he was coming off of to help us out. And we were telling him what we were trying to do. And he was just like, I've never done anything like that before, but I can't wait to try. But it's so taxing on him. By the end, he literally, like, someone grabs it and he falls down on the ground and like lays there. So you're just kind of hoping that none of this falls apart the whole time, and you're holding your breath. And at that point, we had tried it 5 times and hadn't gotten it. Something had gone wrong every time. Either like an actor forgot a line, or even just like flubbed a line. You know what I mean? Like, or the choreography was so specific. If someone had come in at a different time, you can kind of see this camera like panning over for lines. The operator had to memorize, all those lines and when to move over and when to do these things. And then
that's crazy.
Myself pulling focus, on all the different elements. There's a couple of mistakes, I'll tell you, but you can't tell me about. But all these things kind of collide, and you just sort of hope for the best. And it turned out so great. And I think, Dallas was really adamant about this idea of like, there's going to be mistakes in it. And like, that's what I want. Like, I don't want it manicured. I want it like we're watching it and just swiveling around, and you're just kind of like floating around. And it's fine if like something's a little off time, and it's fine if it gets dark. I don't care about that. I care about it flowing. And that's what's exciting, is that it is sort of almost like a piece of theater. And I think that's really cool. So I think those things are all happening behind the scenes. These extras that have been out there for 10 days or for 10 hours, and everyone just literally holding their breath as this thing sort of performs, and it got dark, and we were just afraid. What I will say is, after we were done, the celebrations were intense, and we just kept watching over and over and over again. And for the next 6 days, like, anyone that was on set that hadn't been there, it was like, you got to see what we did the other day. Like, pull it out, like, make them watch it. It was such a trophy. Such a trophy. But honestly, it's such a team effort. And just anything could go wrong. We had a wireless issue the first 2 times, where just like we lost picture for, we don't know why. And you're 8-9 minutes into it, and then you lose it, and it's over, and you got to restart. Now the camera guy needs 30 minutes to rest. We got to reset all the extras, reset all the props, reset the fire, reset the backgammon game. Get everyone back in their wardrobes, throw them around. It's this huge thing. So it was really brave of them to attempt it. Sorry, I know there's a helicopter flying over my house.
No, you're all good. I can't hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting sidetracked, but I get very excited about the whole experience.
I think it worked out well. Like, you feel like you're, even the timing, like you feel like you're a part of that sunset. Like you feel like you're there and you're watching the sunset and everything. It was amazing. Also, cool. That is backgammon. Did you just confirm that?
Totally. I know. I remember we were all sitting there in between setups, and we would kind of play, and we're like, "Is this backgammon? I don't know what this is." And someone did mention that it was backgammon. That's a good eye. And you know what? I loved your videos. I feel like I need to just take a moment to just talk about your videos. I think they're great, and I think it's cool that you're trying this thing out, and it's exploding. I'm a big believer in sort of like where you put your energy, that's what sprouts. And it feels like you're putting energy there and it's sprouting, and that's great. And I hope it just keeps going. But love the video. So
awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a few questions that I have to ask you, because we have some amazing patrons who are amazing. And
cool.
Real quick, let me just add in this video, if you guys want to join our Patreon, you guys can do that at any time for $5, $10, $25. It really helps us out. It just goes back into the channel, helping us get more equipment, doing more videos like this. So, but real quick, we've got a couple of patrons that have some questions for you. So I'll have Vanessa kind of read.
Oh, that's cool.
So the Gray Wizard said, has working on The Chosen been a fulfilling project personally?
It has. It is really, it's such a collective, and for, without sounding too cheesy, like what The Chosen is about is sort of what you feel on set. It's sort of all these different people kind of coming from all these different places. I mean, on a film set, there's a place for everybody. You got carpenters, you've got people that are good, with horses, horseback riders. You've got camera guys, you've got, just people from every walk of life, and everyone just kind of coming together, and usually not knowing each other, but knowing somebody. It's like, it's sort of this interesting fellowship that happens. And then you all kind of come together, and it's kind of going to summer camp, but for like 4 or 5 months, you know what I mean? And by the end of it, you're all ready to get tattoos or something. And so, you just make these great lasting friendships. I know for me in particular, Akis, my boss, the cinematographer and good friend, we've really come closer as friends, just trying to figure out how to do these camera setups. A lot of stuff that I've never done before. The first season, with all the boat work out in the lake was really quite challenging. We were out there in like wetsuits. It was 15 degrees, just really difficult shooting circumstances, and it just like came together, and Dallas as a leader, I really appreciate. He's just such a strong director. Like I was saying before, strong directors, you don't always get, and it's great to sort of be behind somebody that really is just sort of hammerheading the whole thing, and is just like always there, always has done his homework, and like knows what's happening. And that just makes everything feel really purposeful and really easy. When you have leaders like that, it's easy to sort of row the boat, you know what I mean? So it's been great. I think for those reasons alone, it's made me a much better camera department head. I have a team of, sometimes up to 8 or 9 camera people that are all in charge of all these different cameras, multiple cameras. It's a great challenge. It's a great
What cameras
challenge.
are you shooting on?
Well, so the first season we shot on Red Epics, and then we actually made a transition to Alexa Minis this time around, for a lot of different reasons. I won't get too much into it because I don't want to put everyone to sleep. But I think it was a great choice. And the Alexa Mini is sort of what the standard, Skyfall, all the big stuff is shot on that kind of thing. So we wanted to. It was feeling big, and so it's like let's shoot it big. We're one of the big guys now, so let's shoot it like that. So anyway, yes, to answer the question, yes, absolutely. And my heart is very full for the Chosen crew and for what everyone's put together. And hopefully we can get all the same people in for season 3 and do another one, go around the bases.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So Virginia asked, how do you film the sets to look so real and get the time of day for the scenes so seamless with the added computer generated backgrounds?
Oh man, I mean, that is that takes a village too. I got a huge shout out to the production designers who are just in charge of what the sets look like, and the on-set dressers and the costumes. I think that goes a long way. You'd be surprised, and also just like if you throw some animals in there, just the huge change that you feel. And they're so good at sort of choreographing a place to look alive and old, or clean, or wherever we need to be if we're with the Pharisees versus if we're at the camp. These are totally different looks, and people are in charge of making sure that those things work. You know what I mean? And everyone kind of comes together to make that personal. Camera side, we really try to pay attention to shooting wide. We shot really wide this season. I feel like season 1 we shot really tight, because we wanted people to get used to faces and used to sort of this kind of dirtier sturdier feeling. And with season 2, we had such great sets, just these huge sets and landscapes. We were like, we got to shoot wide, like we got to show everybody what we're seeing, you know. So we really tried to capture it in that way. And I think it makes you feel the set more, and make it feel like we're not fooling you as much as we're just showing you what we're seeing. You know what I mean? I think that's a big difference. So yeah, that's the long-winded answer. Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's pick one more. We've got one more from our channel that we asked people if they had any questions. Is there a good one that you have? Maybe.
There were a lot.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What a cool thing.
I'm gonna kind of boil these down into one kind of question.
Go for it.
So I guess you can talk about either what was your favorite part of season 1, season 2, like kind of cinematographically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I hear you.
Or what was your kind of the most intellectually stimulating part for you, I guess, like when you think of your job, I guess, like what is your favorite part or a favorite part moment of, what am I trying to say?
I don't know.
I mean, I think what you're trying to say is like, what gives me the juice for the season.
Yeah. And what are you able to input into the show as well, I think is kind of what I'm trying to ask.
Totally. Well, we're always talking about what we want people to be looking at, and I think The Oner is an easy example because it's very extravagant. Has the episode 4 gone out yet?
Not yet. It's out this Tuesday.
All right. Well, all right. Episode 4 is real good. There's some, oh man. When are you guys going to put this up?
This will be up in a few weeks to regular people, but it'll be up to our patrons it'll be up next week. So after the episode's out. But
okay, cool. So episode 4 has this place called the Pool of Bethesda. Mm-hmm. And we really did some cool crane work and movement. And we're constantly sort of trying to think about what can we do different this time to make this feel different, And Akis, he has a great eye. He's really fundamental to the look of The Chosen. And he's great because he will ask you, like, what do you think? What can we change? What can we make it better? And us as a camera team are usually there, and everyone gives their inputs, and I think that for me is my favorite part, because you can be on different shows where you're just kind of a cog, or you can be on a show where your input is welcomed. You know what I mean? And Dallas is great about that. We would go out, have dinner over the weekend, and he would be like, what can we do? Like, what are we thinking? How can we make this better? What are your ideas? After we're done with the scene, it's like, any ideas of what can we do? Or this isn't working. And I think just that attitude of feeling like you're part of it, because you are, you know what I mean? It's not like someone just showing up and being like, you're part of this thing. And you're like, yeah, okay. You know how that is, right? And you're like, no, I'm not. But this feels like you are, because you are. And for me, it's those complicated camera moves that I get the most excited about. I mean, camera is my bread and butter, and doing things like The Oner, doing water work with the boats in season 1, and Pool of Bethesda for the next episode. It's real cool. You guys are gonna really like it. Awesome. The opening montage in particular is like fabulous. If it's the same as the early one that I saw, but I think it will be. But I think, for me, those kinds of things are really nice. And just one part of the technical camera part, we really tried to sort of take in kind of what they had at their disposal to use. We use a lot of candlelight. We use a lot of fires instead of lights a lot of times. And I think that goes really far. The very beginning of the first episode for season 2 is completely lit by those candles. They're at that table and there's that candelabra there. That's probably my favorite scene, cinematographic, visually. that's probably my favorite scene visually, because we talked about it beforehand. We're like, we want to feel like a painting with just like a glow in the middle and it just dropping off into blackness on either side.
It's beautiful.
Because it's supposed to be mysterious, you know, it's raining outside, it's all these things. And then when we got on set, and we just did that, you know, we put a couple lights up and we're kind of like, no, you know, Keith was like, no, let's pull some stuff out. And we ended up just like keeping it like that. And having cameras look directly into the camera, actors look directly into the camera. Those kinds of choices you don't ever get to make. You know, like, show me another movie where people are looking directly into camera. It's very rare, unless it's like a documentary or something.
Right.
But that's the point, you know, is it's supposed to be different, and they're trying new things. And Dallas is always adamant about trying new things. And Akis is like right there with the camera, like, yeah, let's do it. Let's have them look right down the barrel. Like, how cool is that going to be? You know?
Yeah.
And just like the no fear aspect of those kinds of decisions, just really just get you ready to go.
Yeah, that's super cool that you point that out, because like the documentary style, like being Christians, right? Like this is real, you know, like everything is truthful from scripture. And so like having these characters look at you as if they're reliving their lives, you know,
right?
Like I think that brings so much to the show, and it's like so much of a connection that we get with these disciples who we don't have a ton of information on all of them, you know.
Totally.
Like some of them we literally have, you know, 1 or 2 verses about who they are, but being able to get this connection with them in a new way is I think that's the reason why, you know, The Chosen is doing what it's doing, you know?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and we talk about adaptations all the time, and what makes a good one versus what makes a bad one, you know, and I view The Chosen as an adaptation, technically, you know, because you're taking something and you're kind of infusing it with your own, with a viewpoint. I wouldn't say your own viewpoint, but with a viewpoint. And, you know, you've seen the movies where it's like the book's better, you know, where like people always say those kinds of things. And it's usually because like the adaptation is struggling, you know, and I think that's really what's cool about The Chosen is I feel like they adapt it in such a unique and interesting way. And honestly, if you think about it, the storytelling possibilities are absolutely endless. You know, like I was talking to Dallas and it was just like, what, you could do this forever, you know, like you can take a character, as you'll see in the next episode, I won't give anything away. It's very cool. But like you could take a character who just has very little, you know, screen time in the Bible and do a whole episode about him. And I think that's really cool. And I'm glad that people are welcoming that, you know, because that could go a couple different ways in my experience. As far as, you know, the Christian community accepting certain things. And I'm glad to see that people are coming in with an open mind and being happy about the idea of just like exploring an idea that is embedded, and just going for that ride, you know, like let yourself go for that ride and maybe you can discover something you wouldn't have thought about before.
100%.
I think that's really cool.
By the time this video comes out, we'll have put out a video on Nicodemus from the first season.
Oh, cool.
So we talk a lot about this idea that like for our channel, we're going to be separating things. You know, when I'm talking about scripture, I'll tell you, hey, I'm talking about scripture. Here's exactly what it says. But when we're talking about story, I want to look at this show as well, you know, and be able to look at it and say, hey, this is why this story is really good. This is why Nicodemus is, you know, his like motivations are this way, you know, and talk about that as well. So I'm trying to be very clear and kind of differentiating those.
I think that's a great approach. Yeah, no, I think that's a great approach, you know, and, you know, again, to the credit of Dallas and his team, as far as storytellers, it's like, that's so important, you know. I mean, you could have someone come out and just like read scripture all day and that's fine. But there's an extra step where you can have someone, you know, write something that's thrilling and interesting and hopefully just like captivate you in a new way, you know, and just like try something new. You know, he's always talking about like, I don't want it to be just like any Jesus show. Like, I just don't want to do that. Like, how many times have we seen that? I've seen it a million times. There's no reason to make that again, you know?
And
and there are great ones out there, and that's awesome. And let's just like do a different thing, because how many times have we seen it? You know what I mean? And I think it's intelligent thinking, you know, and it'll be awesome to see as people, or what people think, especially about episode 4. Have I mentioned episode 4?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. Man. It's super, like, such a privilege to be talking to you.
Oh no, it's totally cool.
To hear some of the behind the scenes and all of that. Anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, except for, you know, just again, love your guys' channel, and I love all the love the show gets. I know it means a lot to a lot of people, and at the end of the day, like, that's what it's all about. And I think it's really cool. And I hope everybody likes the rest that we did. And, you know, I know Dallas is planning some more stuff, so get excited, and hopefully we get funded up and it goes off again.
Thanks so much for checking out this episode. Please like, subscribe, comment. It really helps us out. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for being part of our community. Peace.